What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Hope everyone had a awesome Christmas this year, given a little bit of a rough year, but hopefully everyone ended on a strong note and we all had a good Christmas. But let's get into today's video. So today we're going to be building a little end table kind of wall table kind of dealio. So what my plan is to take these boards, and this is going to be a top board, and then I'm going to cut this bottom board down to be a little bit smaller, and then that's going to like be inset for like the bottom shelf, and then this top part will be the nice part or whatever. And then I got these runners that I'm going to run under the shelf, as well as I have these square poles that I'm going to use for the legs. So I guess this is where I go ahead to and talk about a little bit about the wood I got. So the soft pine wood I got from Menards. This is the 1x12x4 because the customer wants it to be 11.5 by 38 inches. So not quite 4 feet and not quite 11. So that way I don't have a lot of scrap here. This is not the 1x12s as when you go to lumber stores. This is an actual 1x12 piece. This is in like the nicer section, not like up on all the racks with all the stuff. It's actually on like its own like in the near the trim section. Another reason I went with this piece is it's a lot nicer, as you kind of see here. It's not just a big 1x12. You can actually kind of look in here and you can see individual boards where this had been jointed and planed and all that stuff. And as you can kind of see here, it's a quite flat piece of wood, and that's, you don't often get that with the big 1x12 lumber. Like, it's normally kind of bowed just because it's a huge 1x12 lumber, and Menards isn't always the greatest when it comes to that kind of thing. And then this is a square 2x2 pine, same thing. These are our legs. It's also kind of, it's not in the same section of this, but it's definitely the same style of wood as this. It's up in the racks, but if you're building something like this, get something like this, because you guys can see here, it's a lot smoother. It's not like a 1x or a 2x2 kind of, I don't have a piece here that show you. So this is the 2x2s I was talking about. As you can see here, quite a bit difference as far as quality goes. Obviously the same size, but you'll see it's got the corners rounded over and whatnot. And it's got lines. This is just a construction grade piece of lumber, and so it's not always as nice for when you're building furniture, stuff like this. And then this, obviously, some more 1x stuff of the nicer, I forget what they call this. It's called Select Pine is what Menards calls their nicer stuff. And it's just the same deal where it's nice, smooth, clean. Nothing you'll notice too with the Select Pine is it's very knotless. So if you look through all of this, you don't see hardly any knots except for in the big flat pieces that would have been planed out. Looking here in this short piece, you already see this giant knot here, and it's actually pretty good. Normally you look up and down a 2x4 and or a 2x2 like this, and it's just full of knots. So that's also the benefit of buying this stuff. Yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but I mean, it's gonna save me a lot of time, as I have very little sanding to do now and very little manipulating of just the board itself before I can actually do stuff. So I'm gonna get to cutting this now. Alrighty guys, so it's a little bit later now, and I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. But anyways, right now I've got it set up. I've got these lines marked for what I'm gonna cut off. And I've got this little level here. What that's going to allow me to do is take my saw here and just come right like that. It's going to lay right against it. It's going to be a nice smooth cut right along that line. And that'll allow me to get a nice straight line. Better way to probably do this is if you had like one of those sliding compound miter saws, you know, and you could just lay it on here and just come all the way across it. I obviously don't have one of those yet. Be getting one of those eventually, but I don't quite have one of those yet. And so this is going to allow me to cut a nice straight line with the circular saw. I could use the radial arm saw as well, but that stop is kind of messed up, and it's not like realigned, and the radial arm saws just aren't the most accurate saw out there. So I'm just gonna do it like this and get right back to you. As you can see here, made a perfect cut. You can still see just tiny remnants of that line there. So it's a nice, perfect straight cut, and it went nice and slow, so it didn't have a bunch of chipping of it up. There's a little bit through here, but I'm going to be routing that little corner over anyways, so that's no big deal. So I'm going to cut this part off right here. I'm going to do the same thing with that level there. I'm going to measure, for my saw particularly, it's a line, a 1/16 under an 1.5 inches, which is 7/16. So, or 1 7/16 is what my blade is from the edge. This is a good trick I like to use for any sheeting, any flat stuff, anything like that, so that I'm getting a nice straight cut. But I'm gonna get going on this real quick and get back to you. So we're on to the next step here. I'm going to be making the legs, or cutting the legs, so we can start framing up our little side pieces for the legs. But the customer wants them 28.5, so then I'm going to shave the ends off the boards there, so I got a nice straight, perfectly straight end there. And then I'm going to cut all of the legs to 27 3/4, since we have a 3/4 inch top. That'll put the final overall height to the 28.5 as requested. So I'm going to get cutting everything up on here, and we'll get those legs cut out, and then we'll get to doing the side pieces. So I got the legs cut here, and I just wanted to get them cut so I can start mocking them up like that, and I can see how much overhang I want from the table. And I'm looking right around a 1/2 inch there, I think, is what I'm gonna do. Just like that spacing, and by the time I round the top over, I think that's gonna be enough, and it's also not making the legs too narrow on the inside either. So what I'm going to do is measure this distance here and here, here and here, and all around, and I'm going to be cutting out little pieces that goes across out of the this wood here. The thicker stuff is going to be the top part right here, and the thinner stuff here, that is going to go on the bottom rung, and that is where the shelf will sit on, this bottom shelf will sit on top, is this right here. So I am going to get that all cut up quick, and then I'll show you the pocket screw hole Kreg jig thing, and show you getting me drilling that so I can get them screwed together and glued. So we got these boards all cut to the right lengths, 2 at 41, 2 at 41, and then both of these at 7.5. And we're gonna be breaking out the Kreg jig here. Now this tool is an absolute must if you are doing anything woodworking, like even remotely slightly more than like you know, once a month. Like this is such an awesome tool to have, and I'll be showing you how to use it right now. So how this Kreg jig works is you stick your piece of wood in there, line it up with using kind of these lines that are kind of on top there, just kind of line it up, get halfway centered, and then you just push this clamp in like this, and that'll hold it. And then you, depending on where you want your holes for this wider piece, I can have the holes wider. So I just take my drill here with the provided drill, and after I already set everything up, and I just come in here, one there, one there. So I moved a little bit because I didn't have it quite tight enough. But after I unlock this, there's our 2 pocket holes that we would then use to screw in against the board like that. So that works perfectly, and I'm going to do those for every single one of these boards. I'm going to be putting 2 on the ends. That way it keeps everything nice and square and sturdy. So I'm going to get drilling all that stuff out so I can get everything assembled. So I'm starting to assemble the posts and the side pieces, and what I'm doing here is I'm setting the posts up on this nice flat surface and then pushing them against this stop back here, and then I'm using this little probably 1/4 inch or probably a little less than a 1/4 inch spacer here, and what I'm doing is pushing it against the one side that I'm working on, and that's allowing me to get perfect gaps on both sides of it there. And then when I do the other side, I slide it over, and then I got the clamp on there just ever so lightly to help steady it, and that's how I'm assembling this stuff. So I've got both sides assembled now, this side and that side, and now it is time to do the long side. So I'm gonna get to doing that. What's up, guys? So it's the next morning. I kind of got late last night, but I'm just picking up where I left off. So we've got the legs on the side pieces on the table. I threw one up here, but I'm going to wait to put the other one on until I cut out the bottom shelf, which I'm lining up right now. The reason why I'm doing this is so that in the case that I'm just like a touch off, I can actually move this outer board flush with the edge of the shelf, because that's the whole plan. This is going to be flush with the edge of the shelf. And that way I can move it like that, and that'll allow me to have like a little more freedom to make everything nice and square. So now that that's all done and whatnot, I'm going to get cutting on this. I got it all marked out here with my lines, and I'm going to come rip this line off, and then rip that line off, and then we'll begin to doing these little corner pieces. So what I did here is I have the table upside down, and I use the top little crossbars to kind of mark up where my bottom shelf notches need to be cut out of the corners. Obviously, since I'm doing it like this, I cut the corners off of the thing. So I use these post tops to kind of mark where that's going to be. And I flipped upside down because these aren't touching the ground, so it's hard to line those up, whereas these are actually all the way up against what will be the top, so it works great for lining stuff up. So when I go ahead and I slide this off, I have that corner and that corner, which I already did, and then I have my lines to make these corners. So I'm going to draw out these corners, and then I'll be able to go cut it out on the bandsaw. So I test fit the board, and it fits in there great. Next thing I'm going to do is come and route it on the router table here. All I'm going to do, obviously, just do the edge piece here, the edge piece there, and around, and then I'll actually do our top board as well now. I would show you the router, but I'll show you too. It'll be kind of a time lapse or something though, because this router is incredibly loud, just outrageously loud, because it's some old one. I need to get one of those new Milwaukee ones, but don't quite have one of those yet. So we're just gonna get to routing here. Man, that thing's freaking loud. I really need to get a new one of those, or just get like earplugs or something like that, because that thing's loud. But anyways, we got these boards all routed. You see it looks great. Having a nice sharp blade in there makes all the difference with the routing, prevents splitting, burning, and all kinds of other stuff. But I'm gonna get all this sanded up a little bit real quick. Probably sand that up, and then we'll get mounting stuff. Hey guys, we got her all finished up. I threw the boards on, screwed them in. I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but I put some pocket holes in the sides of the little side pieces here, and that allows me to just put some screws up to hold the top on. I did that for the top and bottom shelf, and then I went ahead and sanded everything, so everything's nice and smooth all over now. And yeah, looks pretty good. I gotta dust this off, and then it'll be ready to go to the customer. In this particular case, I'm not going to stain or finish it. I will here like next week when I start doing my other pieces. But for this particular piece, the customer already has stain or paint, or I can't remember off the top of that. One of the two. She already has those ready to go at her house that she used on previous pieces, and then she's gonna do that. That way everything matches and whatnot. So that's that. As you can see, turns out pretty good, nice and smooth. And I leveled out the legs already too, so it sits nice and level, doesn't wobble. So that's gonna be all for you. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more or anything related to woodworking or anything like that, just let me know. We are going to be get back doing some automotive stuff here soon, but for right now I just had some woodworking pieces I wanted to make. So thank you all for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.